15-minute mentor. Clearly, good mentorship takes longer than 15 minutes. My aim with this podcast is to pass along things that I've learned along the way, things I'd talk with you about if I was your mentor and we were having coffee together, things I've shared with others over coffee. So let's grab a coffee and let's dig in. Today's topic concerns the problem of busyness, the cost of continually running from thing to thing to thing, and the transformative potential of taking intentional pauses in our daily lives. Starting with the mindset, the worldview always. If you checked out last episode, we acknowledge that some things are more important than others. Basic thing, right? Except we don't often live like that's true. We give attention to things other than the things that we believe in, things that match our priorities. This is another place where that same mindset, that same kind of worldview is critical. If some things are more important than others, then some things should get special attention. Thus, our topic today is intentional pauses. I'm working on my Master of Divinity degree as I'm recording this. One of my classes is on the topic of attention, something that is being challenged constantly by our modern lifestyles, by our human nature, by our technology, many, many other things. In one class session, we did an exercise we had read some stuff about it. And so we tried it. We walked outside of our classroom for 15 minutes and we took note of the things around us. Just that simple, whatever was around. And we made some notes. Then we came back in and everybody kind of mentioned the things that they had observed. Some people had noticed the weather or the feel of the warmth of the sun or the plants and how they were growing. Some that had died in the winter, some that were newly planted, some that were blowing in the wind. Some people noticed noises, a plane flying overhead, the sound of birds, the rustle of the wind. Some noticed people, flowers, or buildings, or cars. The thing I noticed most was how taking this intentional pause in the middle of a busy day of work and class and family and everything was refreshing. It's a habit that I had developed during the pandemic. In between Zoom calls, I'd go out and I'd spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes on my back porch, looking at the garden, the clouds going by, a plane in the sky, right? But I had let that habit slip away. And this exercise reminded me just how valuable pausing can be. Sometimes you got to stop and smell the roses, I guess, as long as you didn't lose your sense of smell during the pandemic or whatever. One big problem with busyness is the impact that it has on our relationships. When we're talking with someone, we're often already thinking about what's next. What is on our list of things to do? Where are we going? What are we doing next? And so when they're responding to us, we're already thinking about what we're going to say next. Keep things moving, people. Let's go. And yet you and I both know that's not the way to build deep, lasting relationships. We know how it feels when someone is obviously trying to shortcut a conversation with us, right? Not good. To build a relationship, you need to communicate. To communicate, you need to listen. Pausing before responding can lead to deeper understanding and empathy in that conversation. Now that means being fully present. Fully present. Not on your way to the next thing, not trying to get something that you need to get done. Instead, pausing. We need to take a break from the distractions in order to fully attend to the person in front of us. Pause. Being fully present is the only way to truly engage with those around us. Pausing for something important. And if faith is important to you, that's a good reason to pause too. There's a story about Jesus. He's healing people and word gets around about where he is. Like if you heard these stories and you or a family member had some sort of illness or chronic condition or birth abnormality, something, you'd listen and you'd go, right? All the people Start to go to where Jesus is, just like you or I would. Now, Jesus is getting busier and busier and busier doing good things. He's healing a lot of people. But then the Bible stops and says this, but Jesus often withdrew to the wilderness for prayer. In the middle of doing great stuff, Jesus pressed pause repeatedly. He stepped aside, even though he was doing things that were really, really important to a lot of people, in order to pay attention to what mattered most. Shouldn't we? Now, we might not be healing the sick. Maybe pausing to focus on spiritual stuff just isn't what you need at the moment. Maybe pausing to build a strong relationship like we talked about earlier, that's not your thing today. But maybe personal growth matters to you. Plenty of studies show us that taking a break can enhance creative thinking, can make you a better problem solver, can provide the mental space necessary for your ideas to percolate and surface. Plenty of people talk about the idea of mindfulness, and we'll talk about it on a future episode, I'm sure. Spoiler alert, love the idea, don't like the word. But let's leave that for now. Instead, let's think about mindful pauses and how taking those throughout the day will help us reset and refocus, can enhance our productivity, can reduce the risk of burnout. Remember how I talked earlier about my pandemic habit of walking out on the back porch between the interminable Zoom calls? It wasn't just for the vitamin D. The act of resting my mind and moving my body made me better on the next call. I noticed on rainy, cold days when I didn't take those breaks, I wasn't as good. I was exhausted at the end of the day. By 3 p.m, I was worthless. So I took up the habit, sort of in self-defense, really. I hated falling asleep at my desk. Taking a mindful pause to pay attention to something other than work actually made me better at work. And there's plenty of science to back that up too, which is all great. Yeah, great, wonderful. How do I do it? Right? Here's what I've learned about adopting a new habit, thanks to reading Atomic Habit. It's back here on the shelf behind me. And a bunch of other habit books, and sucking at making habits for a long time. And then by trial and error, figuring out what works for me and sometimes what works for other people. First, the principle. Pick a specific time and a specific thing to pay attention to and go. Specific time, specific thing to pay attention to, go. Then you need to think about time frames like hours and days and weeks. So in hours, pick a time for a pause and pick a thing to attend to on an hourly time scale, and then go. These should be shorter breathers, just a few minutes here and there. My back porch is one of those examples, right? After a couple of back-to-back Zoom calls or a big long one, stop, go outside, pay attention to nature, right? Pick a regular time interval and a thing to pay attention to, boom, go. Sometimes I fast as a spiritual practice. And on the hours time scale, I stop and pause and pray whenever I feel hungry. Specific time, specific thing to attend to, go, right? Some people love the Pomodoro technique, quick rabbit hole. Pomodoro means tomato in Italian. And it's called that because the Italian guy who invented it had a kitchen timer that looked like a tomato. There you go. Now you're wise. Anyway, the Pomodoro technique is work 25 minutes and then take 5 minutes breaks. I know people who take 55 minutes on, 5 minutes off. I know people who do 50-10, doesn't matter. Again, pick a specific time, pick a specific thing to pay attention to on your pause, and go. So that's hours. What about the time frame of days? I have friends who do a morning routine like I do. I have others who do an end of day review. Some do both, but those are the really cool kids who get all the nice things, and we're not there yet. Either way, the principle's the same. Pick a specific time, specific thing to pay attention to, and go, right? Maybe your morning routine includes reading scripture and prayer and you're paying attention to your spirit. Perfect. Maybe your morning routine is all about exercise and paying attention to your body, to your fitness. Great. Maybe it's coffee with somebody and it's all about the relationships. Specific time, specific thing to pay attention to, go. Right? Now, I try to spend a little bit of time each day after school to talk to my kids. During school breaks, a little more challenging. I try to be intentional about just saying hi, at least in the afternoon. I have friends who take the afternoon and look through their task list and their open emails and make sure to close the loops to end their workday. I have friends who take a walk every afternoon. I have friends who take a nap every afternoon. Again, pick a specific time. And during that pause, pick a specific thing to pay attention to. And repeat. Hours, days, got it? Okay. Weeks are tougher for most people. And by most people, I mean me. Because you're only doing something. I'm only doing something once a week or every couple of weeks. Date nights are my go-to example, and I'm bad at that too. Pick a specific time, specific thing to pay attention to, right? That's the principle. In this case, relationships, right? Boom, that's it. Maybe church is a thing for you. Specific time to pay attention to your spirit, right? Perfect. I have friends who do a weekend work review and make a plan for what they're going to work on next week. I envy those people. And I've felt less stress when I've done that. Maybe you and I can work on this one together. Again, remember the principle. Pick a specific time, pick a specific thing to pay attention to, and pause. On the time scale of hours, something every day, something every week, or maybe every other week. As to the how, put a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror and another one on your computer monitor and another one on the dashboard of your car and another one on your refrigerator. Right? Tell your friends. Schedule a time to take a pause with your friend, maybe, and have coffee or something. Set a reminder on your phone. There's a million ways to get started. I find it helps to have a system, and so I've given you that framework. Experiment with different types of pauses, different things to attend to, and find what works best for you. After all, this is your personal practice. So, to recap, the really cool kids know how and when to take pauses. They're very relaxed, very organized, recharged. Spiritually, they got it together. They're successful, lifelong learners. They have great relationships. They do it also effortlessly. They are very cool. But you and I, we know we can be that cool too someday, right? So today, we need to reflect on the areas of our lives where we might benefit from implementing strategic pauses. For us, we need to remember what's most important. Relationships, spiritual growth, nature, personal growth, charity, professional development, learning, family, friends, whatever. Your priorities. What matters most to you? Pick a specific time. Pick a specific thing that is important to you. Give your attention to it. Take an intentional pause. As always, remember what's most important to you is probably not exactly the same thing that's most important to everyone. Sometimes when I tell people that I fast and pray, they give me the side eye. Some people just nod and agree. Others change the topic. That's okay. Maybe it's for you. Maybe it's not. That's cool. This is all about making time and reserving attention for things that matter to you. All right. So I'll leave you with this quote from Anne Lamott. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Thanks for tuning in and giving your precious attention to me. You can share your experiences or suggestions for future episodes. Just go to 15mentor.com, 15mentor.com. In your podcast player or YouTube or wherever you found this, subscribe, like, follow, click the bell, click the thumb, whatever you do to get more episodes there. Tell a friend over coffee when you're taking a pause with them. Feel free to find me on the socials if you want to. Just spell out my whole name and there you go. I'll see you next time.